My name is and this is my Black History Month contribution. I want to be able to say that in my lifetime I was able to dedicate my thoughts and my personal opinions based on our Black heritage and our community as it exists currently. And I feel that being able to give your ideals and be able to communicate that the community and with others, whether or not you're able to see their faces, is very meaningful and impactful and gives notion that you care and you believe, and there is drive to be had and conversation that should be had. And so I want to be able to acknowledge those who have lived before us, like Langston Hughes and W.E. Du Bois, and people who I read about who have written essays on Black culture and issues such as slavery and such as immortality and situations that derive from marital status and HIV, AIDS, and men who are in the penal system and have become victims of mental abuse, physical abuse, as well as verbal abuse on a regular basis. This has become a part of our culture, music, and how it has just suddenly hypnotized our mannerisms and the way that we think and the way that we are with one another. These things are a part of our culture now, and without being able to analyze them and deal with them head on, we are going to slowly fade away. And I feel that as Africans in America, there's for no reason by any route that we should plunder the way that we are. And I think that it's important to remember those who have came before us so that we can be able to grow and understand who we are and how we are operating today in the 21st century. So I'm going to, this is my contribution. I'm going to read The Negro Speaks of Rivers by Langston Hughes because I was given an assignment for school and I decided to pick, I ran across this poem and it really touched me, and it made me feel that this is a great vocal point for Americans to be able to reflect on and have a connection with that is maybe can be conceived as detrimental for today's society. So here it is. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when the dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo and it lured me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans. I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient dusty rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. Langston Hughes. Negro Speaks of Rivers. And I think that just a little bit of a eulogy that I want to give based on what that meant to me was that sometimes in life you can just take a journey, and that journey can be on the way to school, on your bus, on the way to work, on your train, just in your car. It could be you know, on the way to go see a friend, but that journey can allow you time to be able to reflect on how you are affected by other people or by yourself on a day-to-day basis. And being able to understand yourself and where you are going in life is something that is going to be able to put you in the mind state of understanding who you are. And the only way you can be able to understand who you are is by being able to be given time to reflect on that. I strongly believe that people are in a place where they are extremely afraid of themselves, men and women who are afraid of who they are and have a difficult time being able to connect with who they really are. And I feel like it is important to be able to explain this to the generation of people who may not be able to even understand where they are in life and how they can be able to better conduct a lifestyle that is going to be healthy for them and healthy for the people that they are around or surrounded by on a regular basis. I find that it's very important to be able to spend time reflecting on the things that you have done wrong in your lifetime, as well as the things that you have done right, so that you can be able to feel more comfortable in knowing that you are capable of doing wrong. And the more you elude and run away from the fact that you have done something hurtful that has put somebody else at a disadvantage, that has crushed the security of a person's sanity, those things, in admitting them, allows you to be able to change the diaphragm of your mind and how you were able to connect to yourself. And when you were able to recognize that you are capable of doing wrong, and that wrong that you have done has to be recognized in order for you to make a transition in your mind, you have to, this gives symbolism and significance to what you want to be able to accomplish in the future. I mean, you can't go forward without understanding admittance is the number one thing that allows you to start to uncover the piles and piles of things that hold you back. And when you are constantly trying to move forward and you have layers that hold you back, you can no longer be able to move forward. You are just simply you are motion. You are emotion in the same place. And emotions that sit inside of somebody can become a festering judgment. And judgment of oneself is the most crucial judgment, because it is the one that forms the mind frame, which allows you to be able to reflect or repel the understanding of what you are. When you send this off into the world, it often is what you use to represent yourself. And if you are not true to that representation, if you're not able to identify with that representation, then every day you are a living counterfeit. And how are we able to connect with one another? How are we able to understand and not judge and not place these materialistic values on one another if we aren't able if we are not able to even connect with ourselves? And this has to do with the beginning of a journey and being able to reflect on those who have journeyed from slavery and the deterioration of a community, not being able to be married, not being able to be together in a household, man and woman, and raise children, not to be able to understand the importance of respect, not to be able to understand that men have to be raised generationally by men. And the only way you can be able to teach a man is by living and understanding your own personal examples and learning from those. And if you never reflect on the things that you've done wrong, then you've never allowed yourself a chance to grow. And if you are constantly wanting to move forward, like I said before, and you say, oh, well, I want to be an example for my sons, or I want to be an example for the men in my community. Just say, by chance you do, but you've never actually been able to use your examples to be able to form a story that allows one to be able to listen and hear and understand and say, oh, this person might understand where I'm coming from if I speak to them. If you're not able to line yourself up for that conversation to happen, then that conversation is never going to happen, and you're never going to be able to pour into your community, and you're never going to be able to be a real example, because you have to be able to call yourself out on the things that you are most frightened of other people to know about. And so our setbacks are literally sitting in themselves, and if we just continue to sit around waiting for these examples to miraculously pop up and just show their faces to us and open up their hearts, then we are going to continue to crash into each other and pull on each other and subtract from each other. And this is what I see every day. And somebody who has impacted my life recently is W.E. Du Bois. I started reading his book because I wanted to prepare for this speech. I kind of just read and reflect and then kind of get my own thoughts together, and I knew that if I read a certain amount of material on certain people, that I would be able to verbalize, internalize my thoughts, and then be able to deliver it to you so that you can be a part of what I experienced, so that maybe what I have to say will be something that will be deposited into your diaphragm of thinking, so that you can be able to understand that you are the most important thing on earth, and that there are so many people who may not know that nobody or may think that nobody cares about them or loves them, but no one is responsible for loving you. No one's responsible for loving you. Connections occur in life that draw people to love, that bring people to love. But you have to first be responsible for loving you. And the better you come adapted to that, the better you will be able to receive the love of others. But if you're not able to first love yourself, then you are in a complete absence. And the absence of love is the worst part of life. I mean, it is literally the fuel that wakes you up in the morning. It is the acknowledgement of self that allows people to be able to make decisions in life. And it is important for you to recognize that in the communities that we live in, people are so detached from who they really are that they create this person, and they identify that person as now being who they are. And when they do that, they literally destroy the real person, meaning they take apart all the tools in which make them, their hair, their skin, their thoughts, their speech, the way they talk, the way they grew up. They literally detach all of that, which sometimes in many cases can be understandable, because concept of life, that you have to recognize that this is not by accident that people create these new personalities, these new people, this new person which they are. This is a part of everyday personality traits as we know life to be. And so since this is something that is becoming a part of human culture, human race, we have to be able to recognize that, where do I stand in that? Have I become somebody who has created this alternate person for who I am? Have I completely depleted my raw materials of who I am and pieced them together to be able to be accepted by somebody else? Have I done that? Do I do that? And how do I take that person apart? Well, so taking that person apart means accepting that there is something inside of you that makes you great, and that without you, somebody else is going to sit around dying because they are waiting for you to be able to come and deposit what you have learned from life into their life, so that they can be able to grow. You have to understand that there's people in life that specialize at sucking the life out of you. They will literally suck the life out of you. They will carry around this energy that will take everything you have away to where you just empty. And if you are empty, you are no longer able to produce. You can't produce anything when you are empty. And those people who suck the energy out of you, they have themselves been flooded with negative energy. And so now you have a nucleus of people who are literally working against themselves and absorbing themselves instead of producing. Something important that I learned, and it just stuck with me. I took a biology class, and it went through, the first chapter went through different definitions of, molecules and atoms and plant cells, animal cells, producers, decomposers, and it was so enlightening that when I read the definition of a consumer, by my biology book was that a consumer is one that feeds on its own feces. So I then used that as a comparing analogy, and I said to myself, the number one thing that you always hear in the United States, I'm not necessarily sure about world news or news that you may hear in other countries, because I don't have CNN World on my TV, so I don't know. But I know that we are always being called consumers, and when you rationalize what that means, it is literally one that feeds on its own shit. And when I look around and I see one that eats his own shit, when I look around and I see how people live and how people operate and how people work, we live in a world of consumers. And it is sad, because at the end of the day, all day long, especially African Americans, we are supposed to be producers. We are constantly supposed to be producing so that we can be able not only make it to the next level, but conquer the next level, so we can be able to continue to move up. Because if you're not able to conquer, if you're not able to make it to the next level, then there's no point of going up. You need to make sure you have mastered the level which you're on, so that you can be able to go on, so that you can be able to bring somebody with you. I'm going to segue now into what I read by W.E. Du Bois that really took a hold of me, gripped me, grabbed me, and made me, and it shook me up, because it's wonderful when you are living on earth and you hear about poets and philosophers from like the 18th, 19th century who say things or have said things that you think about on a regular basis. Like, this is it touches my core, so I'm gonna read it to you. This is my Black History Month book I've been reading, so that I can be able to deliver this to you. W.E. Du Bois says that to be a poor man, actually I have this memorized, but let me recite it to you. W.E. Du Bois says that to be a poor man is hard, but to be a poor race in the land of the dollar is at the very bottom of hardship. And what that means is that where we've come from as Africans, as now Americans, we have struggled. We have been made to struggle. And since we have been able to encounter this over centuries at a time, we have now become equipped to be able to use our power for struggling, but we have not been able to put that power towards the use of prosperity, where we can now become a part of a community together in love and understanding and hope and education and investment in one another. That struggle that started on the shores of West Africa and took us to Brazil and the West Indies and to the coast of United States, or North America. We have not really acknowledged that in the generation which I live in now. I think the most relevant thing that I've heard about was Hidden Colors. I sent it to 50 people in my contact list on Facebook, I'm sure. And then I was this guy was oh, something, pretty much trying to hit on me. And I was so did you watch the video? And he was oh, I thought it was spam. And I was thinking to myself, okay, so I wonder if all the other 50 people thought it was spam, because at the end of the day, I decide whenever you get something put inside of you, you have to be able to give it back. And I feel education, things that educate the African American mind are powerful, because whatever you put into a man's mind is only going to be able to develop him to be able to be stronger and more disciplined and understanding what he's capable of. The only way you can be able to understand what you're capable of is being able to peer into the past of your ancestors and connect and be able to say, I'm just that powerful. I mean, W. Du Bois, he got his PhD from Harvard. I mean, he lived 80 years. He lived for so long. And I feel when you see what we have been able to do, and then you look at what we're doing now, do you know how many young black men are addicted to rap music? They think that they're the rappers in the rap videos, and they will recite every word, and they can't even recite any of the poets or the professors or the people who have literally marched for us to be able to be here. For example, I went on MLK Day. I went to go march for freedom. I went to go march for freedom on MLK Day, with a whole big group of people. Well, it wasn't a big group of people, but it was 20 people, I went, and then I ran into this guy, and since I've been in New York, I've seen him 5 times, just randomly, and we always connect, we always talk, and he's always at these places where black people are doing powerful things and getting together. We met at Zulu Nation, we met at I met him randomly on the street walking to this club to meet with some friends. I met him at the parade. I just seen him randomly in New York City, and we went to go march together, and he said the most powerful thing, and I was that's the realest thing I heard since it was just real. And what he said was that he was yeah, we down here marching, we're going, we're fighting for this cause, but at the end of the day, if you're not trying to actively fight white supremacy, then what are you doing? You're not doing anything, because that's what we're up against. We're up against powerful white people who are literally drowning us on a daily basis with decomposition, and that is what's tearing us apart. We are decomposing by the second, and these people that we idolize that are at the top are not reaching back and saying, oh, let me take my millions of dollars and let me open a power plant and invest into the lives of African American people and provide jobs for them. Let me start an airline and offer free transportation for black people to go back to Africa because I have $150 million that I can do that. Like, that's not what they're talking about at all. And the fact that, you know, we still feel like we're still buying into the schemes. Like, Subway just came out and admitted they were, I mean, it's not even about that. Everything is just put here in order for us to feed into. And the fact is, we're supposed to be strong enough to be able to resist and empower and push forward so that we can have political stability. We can be able to have educational development and higher education provided for our children and our children's children and ourselves. Like, this is what we're supposed to be thinking about and doing on a daily basis. Not reciting Drake. Not listening to Chief Keef or all these other rappers who are not thinking about investing into the communities, who are only going to go buy cars and jewelry and have sex with women and put themselves at risk of HIV. Like, we're supposed to be doing better for one another, and the fact that we are being warred against and accepting it and sitting in it and continuing to be on welfare and continuing to let the mental illnesses that run rampant in our communities be a quilt is like, it's like a daily disbelief for me. And for somebody who's actually been to Africa and knows that, like, none of this makes sense, like, there's no reason why there's gold and diamonds under our feet in Africa and we're dying and we're sick and we don't have hospitals and we don't have schools and we don't have social services and the government's crooked and we don't have any type of ability to be able to pull ourselves, and not just like pull yourself up, but pull up all the people standing behind you. Like, I posted on my Facebook page Maya Angelou's speech. It was like the dopest thing I ever seen in my life. I thought I play it on a regular basis just because I'm like, how the hell did she go up there for Bill Clinton's inauguration and speak so boldly, and like that was like actively fighting white supremacy. And it was just crazy because, like, you know, she was in Africa. Maya Angelou left the United States and went to Africa and was there and was like, this is where I'm going to live. And the only reason she came back was because Martin Luther King hit her up and was like, they're over here killing us and we have to do something about it and we need you to be here fighting with us. And she came back, and why she never went back to Africa to live, I don't know. But W. Du Bois died in Ghana, and that's where he lived for the rest of his life. So the importance of being able to understand who we are, where we came from, and where we should be right now, and where we should be working on trying to get to, and how that can happen for us, needs to be just a possibility. It needs to be an everyday ideal. And the only way I feel like we're going to be able to get there is to be able to fix what's inside of us and who we are, and understanding who we are. One thing that I want to mention is that I feel it's important to recognize that as an individual, you cannot change unless you are ready to change. How you know you're ready to change is you have to be tired of doing what you've been doing. You have to be tired of smoking weed. You have to be tired of getting drunk. You have to be tired of going to jail. You have to be tired of smoking cigarettes. You have to be tired of cussing your girlfriend out and whooping on her every day. You have to be tired of sitting around eating until you fall asleep. You have to be tired of crying and feeling insecure and covering up your hurt. You have to be tired of not addressing the issues from your past. You have to be tired of being something that you know that you don't want to be. You have to be tired. You literally have to be tired. You have to be tired of being somebody's baby's mama and not somebody's wife. You have to be tired of having a degree and not having a job. You have to be tired of that. And when you become tired of that, that's when your mind literally, like, if you can imagine, like, train tracks and a train just moving forward, and the tracks have to make a transition, because in many railroads you have two train tracks, or a train track that's going to go this way and a train track that would come head on and still need to stay on the same path. So at some point, a mile, half a mile ahead, when the train's coming, that train track makes a transition. And when you get tired of doing something, your mind literally makes a transition, which is your mind and your body and your spirit connecting and saying, I'm ready. And then being able to recognize that there's things that you need to be able to do to make that change is often where people transition back. Because in order for you to be able to not just acknowledge that you're ready to make the change, but actually making the change has to do with more than just being tired of doing that. You have to literally be equipped and prepared to stop doing what you're doing, seek knowledge, and then stay positioned in that. So when the train comes over the track, you stay in place and you're prepared to be able to endure the weight of allowing yourself to be a sacrifice. And that sacrifice that you have to endure, trains are long. You have to imagine yourself being at that pressure point where you are capable of enduring tons of weight. And then going back. Allowing that train to pass over you. And then going back into place and tapping into the mindset and the strength of somebody else and saying, guess what you can do? You can make that transition too. And you can endure the weight. And you can be able to transition back and be able to help somebody else. And that's what we have to be able to train ourselves to do. And how you do that is after you get tired of doing what you've been doing. Like, I get so mad when I go back and I like Facebook sometimes. Like, I'm not the kind of person who goes and investigates people on Facebook, because I never even looked at Facebook as a thing that you investigate people for. I didn't realize people do that. And so there's this thing on the side, like a feed on the side, a little mini feed, and like when I'm doing stuff, I might have one of those laptops where you just scroll and like somebody's picture will pop up, and it kills me to see that people that I knew from when I was like living a lifestyle of like just living a different type of lifestyle than what I live now. When I was living that kind of lifestyle, that people are still living that lifestyle. They're not taking care of their bodies. They're still getting high on a regular basis. They're not going to college. They're not trying to make a change. They're not trying to invest in their life. When you calculate all the weed you buy, sell, and smoke, and you get that number, and you realize that I could have literally invested $15,000 into my education. It's like, that doesn't mean anything to anybody if you don't even think like that. And if you don't think like that, then that's just like a pointless conversation. But that's my reference point for this conversation, because you have to be willing to allow your mind to make progress. And if you aren't able to do that for yourself, then you have to be able to recognize when your body and your mind and your spirit saying it's time for a change, because there are changes that your spirit will go through to be able to get your attention and let you know we're supposed to be over there. We're supposed to be like over there, and there's no reason why we should still be here. And if you don't innately recognize that, then there will sometimes come people in your life that will be a signal to let you know you need to make that transition. And what that means is when you're making that transition, you have to be prepared to cut off people. You have to be prepared to spend time reading and understanding how your mind works. And the only way, or the way I can best be able to tell somebody else how to understand and be able to figure out who they are, is by figuring out how you think. And the only way you can figure out how you think is by reading, because when you read, you start to formalize an opinion. You have to stop, you have to reflect, you say, well, I think this. Bingo. You now have an opinion. You now have a thought process. You now have a formalized opinion, and that can be developed. And once you develop that, you now have a new basis of conversation in your life, because how you form long-term friendships is by your conversation. And when you have something new and different to talk about, you're going to draw and attract new people to your life. And that is being able to take steps in a new direction and figure out what it is you want and what you want to do. And then when you've done that long enough, you now become less persuasive and less likely to go back to things that you were prone to do in the past. And when you're able to make that transition, then you've now made it to a new level of maturity. And through that new level of maturity, you've been able to accept that I'm growing. And when you grow, then you are able to master the level which you're on. And when you grow, regardless whether you want to go to the next level, you're going to go to the next level. Because just like W.E. Du Bois said something that was like crazy. It was like super crazy. It was like mind-blowing. And pretty much I'm just going to paraphrase what he said. What he said was that if you go in the wrong direction, everything possibly that could go wrong is going to go wrong. But if you start going in the right direction, everything possibly that could go right is going to go right. Period. Do not count the dilemmas, the setbacks in life as part of, oh, well, how is everything possibly going right if this happened? Because at the end of the day, you have to count everything as a positive. Because if you don't, you're going to get wrapped up and frustrated in things that you feel like you can't handle when you really can handle those things. And being able to handle those things is what allows you to be able to teach somebody else to handle your things. And when you master your emotions, when you master being able to listen to somebody and not get upset, and be able to reply and be able to say, hey, this is what I think about what you said. And with men, oh my God, women, do not sit around thinking that they're going to respond to you like this, because they don't. They do not respond when you think they're going to respond. So in conversations, as you learn how to listen and develop conversations and be able to deal with men appropriately, you have to recognize that they need time to respond. Tidbit, something you should know. But I just want to be able to also continue by saying that we need to do better for ourselves. And I just firmly believe that we can't do better for ourselves unless we're able to fall in love with who we are and take apart this person we've created and really be able to concentrate on the good and the existence of good that's in us. It is imperative for our growth process. And if you're not able to grow, you're not going to be able to deposit that growth into your children, which is why I don't have any children, because I want to max out on all my growth and understanding. So when I have children, they're like, my mom's freaking amazing. That's what I want. I don't want to be like, oh, my mom was kind of half-assed, she got it together later on in life. No. You want to be able to max out on all your opportunities. Not to judge anybody else, I'm just saying that you got to pick your path. And don't think for a minute that just because your path gets thrown off, that doesn't mean you can't get back together. It's just that we have to be examples for one another. Met a man who said one of the most inspiring quotes, and I'm going to only talk about 2 more topics. This is going to be the end of my contribution to Black History Month. I met a man at a job, one of the various jobs that I worked last year, and he said to me, he said, you know what, life is like opening up a safe. And you're probably going to open up your safe around like age 25. It's like you're smart, you're going to get it, you're going to open up your safe. I was like, open up my safe. And then we had to like disperse and like go to our jobs, and like I didn't really get to talk to him about it. But I got it, like it clicked. And what I love about life and myself is that once I get something, I can be able to explain it to somebody else. I like explaining things to other people because I want to be able to do my job at being able to give back to other people. And I feel like as a Black African woman, I want to be able to deposit as much information and education into my counterparts in my community, because at the end of the day, I can't do this by myself, and I need other people to recognize that every day is an investment. So it clicked, and what clicked in my mind was the fact that what he was saying was, you have to be able to figure out how your brain works. And once you're able to figure out how your brain works, like it's like opening up a safe. Go this way, go that way. And what do you hear? You can keep on going. Suppose you don't have the combination. You have to, in order to get the combination, you have to connect with who you are. You have to literally understand who you are. Like open up a safe. Like there's no key. You just literally have to know the combination. And you don't just wake up one day and say, oh, I have the combination. You have to, every day, a little bit this way, a little bit that way. And then it ticks. And then you understand something about yourself. Like something I understand about myself is that I'm extremely stubborn, and I don't like other people to tell me stuff. I like to figure it out on my own, and I had to learn how to listen. So, tick. I'm getting that part. So I'm that much closer to being able to open up my safe. And I gotta go a little bit this way. And when I'm doing that, I'm able to recognize that the combination to my safe is inside of me. And when you open up a safe, you have all that, you have access to anything that you want. And it's my job in life not to just open up my safe and open up the treasures of the world, but once I learn how to master opening up my safe, guess what I can do? I can turn around and I can teach 20 million other people how to open up their safes and how to effectively approach situations and be able to discipline their train of thought and be able to communicate with people respectfully and be able to respect themselves and be able to embark on adventures and investment and ownership. So you got now a whole generation of African American people who have unlocked the treasures of the world, and they're literally operating in comes from being able to believe in yourself and wanting it bad enough. You can get wherever you want to get in the world, but you literally have to put the work in. When you put work in, you get whatever you want. Literally no one can tell you no. You're now destined to be told yes, because work qualifies you for something. Work qualifies you for success. Okay, this is my last point. This is a Liberia quote. The hardest thing for a man to do in the world is to respect a woman. And the hardest thing for a woman to do in the world is to respect herself. I said this. The reason why I say that is because men have to literally recognize that in order for them to make progress in life, they have to be able to respect women. And you have to be able to disconnect sometimes based on where you are right now in your respect level, and be able to recognize that in order for you to be able to maintain a relationship with anybody, and especially a woman, you have to have respect. And that respect is something that you should naturally give to others without feeling like you're doing them a justice. You're supposed to feel like you're doing yourself a justice, because when you have respect for others, you literally are giving yourself the benefit to be able to be respectable in that person's sight. And although that may be hard for a lot of people to conceive, that's something that you have to practice on, you have to work on, and you have to make a part of your daily routine so that you can be able to say, no matter what, that you have respect for other people. When you have respect for other people, it's not just that you're making progress in life, and you're not just putting yourself in a position for other people to respect you and listen to you, but you're preparing yourself to be able to teach somebody else respect. Most important thing in life. And women, you have to respect yourself. I was talking to one of my friend's daughters, and she was like, I think in her mind she thought like I was going to be talking like, I think she thought in her mind that I was going to be talking to her like a child. And she was like, you're just going to preach to me. And I was like, the reason why I talk and I do and I act the way I act, and I think and I do the way I do, is because I wish like hell somebody would have talked to me and connected what I know now to what I should have been thinking and knowing then. Because although I had an acquired wisdom at a young age, I still just didn't get the respect thing. I didn't understand that you need respect for yourself. When you get respect, when you tell somebody no, and when you're able to be an individual and you're able to stand in your own place and know who you are and invest in your education, know what you're going to do, and be like proud of that, people literally envy you, because people don't spend time developing that. People don't know what they want to do in life. People, you know, like when I see, I'm not going to go off in a tangent, but like when I see people and they have like tattoos on their face and like piercings on their face, I'm like, these young people really don't even know what they're capable of, what they're going to do, how their next day, like they're like literally like crunched up on the inside. And the only way they can be able to make it through the day is by being able to have some sort of self-expression. You know how many people in the world don't even know how to verbalize their feelings? They don't know how to tell people what they're thinking. They internalize every single thing. On a daily basis, they are living a backwards life. You know how many people are like that in the Black community, African American community? Millions. So, if somebody would have been able to argue me down the understanding of respect, I feel like I would be able to proudly represent my teams. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because like being able to approach people proudly with the you that you're comfortable with, that's like cashing $1 million check. You know, it's like something that no one can ever take away from you. Just like something that everybody wants. Everybody wants to be respected. Everybody wants to be looked at and say, oh, you know, she has it together. She made a change. You know, people are stuck. My piece is, I'm going to end it with a W.E. Du Bois quote. He said, how does it feel to be a problem? Well, my answer to that question is, I refuse to continue to be a problem. Everybody around me in my community here, my community in Africa, I feel like they need to recognize that we're a problem. And if we're not able to fix that problem and able to allow other people who stand over us and say, this is what I'm going to give you, you take it, you eat it, you like it. If you're not able to say, hey, look, I'm going to take that problem and stuff it down your throat and make it taste like how you want me to taste it, then you're not prepared to do anything. And in 2014, you need to be prepared to do something about this problem. You need to be prepared to figure out who you are. You need to be prepared to understand that you have the capabilities of running a country, of running a home, of running your community, of being somebody who's able to be outstanding and positive, and somebody who's able to work and able to do well and be able to be an example for others around them. That's the kind of person you need to be recognizing that you are. And you're never going to be able to do that if you're sitting around sucking the life out of other people. If you sit around sucking life out of other people, you are going to continue to be empty. And when you're empty, you cannot produce anything. There's no life. You have to literally sit around waiting for God to deposit life into you, because you're empty. And trust me, you do not want to sit around waiting for God to give you the answer, because when God gives you the answer, it is not necessarily the way you want to receive it. And this has been my Black History Month contribution, and I hope that I've been able to connect with Africans and Americans and people of color and people who really just need to realize.
Oh, here we go. It's another new joint from our new record, Slave Education. Tyree's gonna tell ya.
Oh yeah, my blood is hot bubbling. I see the trouble coming when you cut my skin and grab the saw and rub it in. Salt to injury, I see it every day. The wumbles and bourgeoisie suckers gotta pay. The rich are getting richer while the poor is getting clowned. They pissing on us with that economic trickle down. Them giant gas guzzlers support the oil smugglers, and by smugglers I mean I'm White House devilers. We're all over the world, they got the fingers in. The awful smell of death and the air is lingering. The bodies being piled up in multiple mass graves. People wonder why I go off on a tirade. 5 can cap us off at will, but it's Mercer law, ever the blood of the pig spills. No justice, no peace is a quote not forgotten. Clean up your house, cause something smells.
Everybody put your black gloves on.
Put the black gloves on.
Put your fist in the air.
Put that fist in the air.
If it's time for a change,
time for a change.
gotta tell them hell yeah.
Motherfucker, hell yeah.
Put your black gloves on.
Put the black gloves on.